Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Alex Skolnick from Testament is going to join us. They have a new record coming out very soon. Can't wait. I just listened to the new song on YouTube. So let us know in the chat if you've pre-ordered Parabellum, Life of Agony, and Jasta. Go get your tickets now. Check us out. We are leaving September 19th. I do have 2 Hatebreed shows in between, so I'm doing Louder Than Life with Hatebreed and also Aftershock with Hatebreed, but then I will be back out with Life of Agony and Jasta. We're going to the Machine Shop in Flint. We're going to the Forge in Joliet. We're coming to Starland Ballroom. We're coming to Long Island, Connecticut, Sunday, September 21st. Get your tickets now. You can head on over to Life of Agony's website, or you can just click the link in the show notes today. If you would be so kind to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and give us your feedback, that would be great. Of course, the Jasta Show is brought to you by Sumerian Records, and Sumerian is killing it right now. Head on over to SumerianRecords.com. After the show, you'll see they have a bunch of leftover merch and vinyl. But check out SumerianRecords.com after the podcast today, and big thanks to Sumerian for sponsoring Milwaukee Metal Fest and the Jasta Show, and definitely check out Face Yourself. So while I have you, check out our good friends over at Reigning Phoenix Music, another great sponsor of the Jasta Show as well as the Milwaukee Metal Fest. Reigning Phoenix Music has been putting out a ton of killer metal releases as of late, from bands like Halloween and Insight, who just did the Hatebreed Summer Slaughter Tour. They also have the new Wolf Heart Draconian Darkness 2 EP coming out. You can pre-order the vinyl over at shop.reigningphoenixmusic.com. reigningphoenixmusic.com. No coupon code needed. Link is in the show notes. Big thanks to Reigning Phoenix Music. If you can't get enough of the Jasta Show, or maybe you missed us since we've had a 3-month hiatus while I finish the Hatebreed record and get the 2026 edition of Milwaukee Metal Fest figured out, you can always go check out patreon.com/Jasta, or you can go listen to the archives, over 700 episodes in the archives over at gasdigital.com. There's about 4 hours worth of new content over at patreon.com/Jasta, including 2 new weekly metal roundup episodes where we're listening to tracks, and by Patreon, 4 Patreon episodes where we're answering fans and keeping the conversation going, listening to the fans' questions, answering them, commenting on them, and reading the emails and comments and all that stuff. Now, what you're hearing behind my voice is the new track from Many Eyes. This is off the new EP, Combust, which is coming out very soon on my label, Perseverance Media Group. You can go and pre-order it now. There's signed copies from the band. Big shout out to Keith Buckley, Nick Belmore, and the boys. Go check it out at martyrstore.net. And pre-order now. While you're there, get the new Kirk Winstein album as well. Kirk from Crowbar, the riff beast himself. He has a brand new solo album about to drop as well. I really appreciate everybody who helped fund these albums. You know, a lot of you have got your names in the thanks list, and alongside me on the executive producers list. We could not do these albums without the support of our Jasta Show listeners, so thank you again. And make sure you go get your physical copies over at martyrstore.net, or you can check out pmgroup.bandcamp.com. Before we chat with Keith from Life of Agony, make sure you support our sponsor, Blue Grape Music. Head on over to bluegrapemusic.com. Check out their artist page, check out all their new releases, and support bands like Gridiron, who did the Summer Slaughter Tour with us. Also check out the new Silly Goose and other releases like Fugitive, who was on the podcast recently. BlueGrapeMusic.com, and check out store.bluegrapemusic.com. It's all there, BlueGrapeMusic.com. Now on to the show.
My friend, the lead singer of Hatebreed, the infamous and notorious Jamey Jasta, is in the building. That's what's up.
Jamey Jasta from the metal band Hatebreed. That guy's famous.
Coffee, death metal, and push-ups.
That's Jamey Jasta. Remember Jamey Jasta? You know him. He's a podcaster, but he's also a metal man.
I would say he leads that.
That shit is hard.
Your host, Jamey Jasta, Hatebreed. Jamey Jasta, Hatebreed.
There he is, Skolnick in the house.
Oh my God. Jamey Jasta, what a coincidence.
How are you, my
You
friend?
just popped up on my screen. It's just magic.
Dude,
Good.
we're ready.
I'm good. I am on the West Coast. I just arrived yesterday for rehearsals with the guys. We are rehearsing for the Thrash of the Titans tour next month with Obituary, Destruction, and Nervosa. And we are doing Louder Than Life on Sunday. And this is our perfect week for rehearsals. So I'm at the Casa de Chuck Billy.
Awesome.
And you can see some Testament memorabilia behind me. And
Nice.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I was just reminded of poor Tampa from At the Gates, so that it's a somber day.
I know, what a loss. You know, it's we lost this screen icon, right around the same time, Robert Redford, and shortly after, it's a shame that his loss was sort of overshadowed by this huge loss that happens sometimes, unfortunately. But terrible loss. Great band, and
prolific.
I didn't know him
guy.
I didn't know he was ill. I was very sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna do some sort of tribute podcast show where we listen to all the guest spots and the projects. He had so many. That was something that was really cool that he did. He would branch off and do all these different sort of styles of the various heavy subgenres, and he was always one to be watching bands from the side of the stage, and always one to be championing smaller bands. Would rock the definitely. I could probably name 2 or 3 bands that I saw him wearing the shirt, and I'm like, oh, let me check those guys out. And he's one of those guys that you just think you're always going to be able to see him. Oh yeah, well, especially since the comeback, right? Since At the Gates had the comeback record, because what they did was so they, besides Refused and besides a small handful of other bands that went away and got bigger and got a cult following, they were kind of the ones in metal where it showed you that you might be down, but you're never out. And even if you don't have the big push and you don't have the big agent and the big manager, the fans can organically find you over time. And if you make good songs, and if you have something different or something unique about you that you could, Acid Bath is proof right now, but they were the first. Like At the Gates was the one that, all those bands. I remember hearing all those bands and going, wow, sounds like At the Gates. And then you see them and they're all wearing At the Gates shirts, and they're like, oh my God, they would ask me, you guys played with At the Gates? And I said, yeah, we played at 7 Willow Street in 1996.
Wow.
Yeah. With,
and also that was a time where, metal was so underground, and it was much harder to kind of get a leg up in the music industry. And, sometimes when I meet people that don't know much about heavy metal, and, I describe my band, we're sort of like right below some of the known names. Like if somebody doesn't know anything about metal, but I mention names like Slayer and Megadeth, right? They've heard of them at least. And I can at least say, well, my band has played with those bands.
Yes, I do the same thing.
We never got the multi-platinum discs or Grammys or anything like that, but we're sort of in that universe.
You're in the conversation,
yeah,
for sure.
But then there are bands that really our insiders know, and if somebody has heard of At the Gates. They're an insider, but everybody on the insider, massively respected the band. There's one of those examples. Acid Bath, like you mentioned, is another example, one of those bands. So maybe it's hard to describe to non-metal people who they are, but anybody who's like inside metal knows the band and has a lot of respect.
And that inspiration, not only just musically and vocally and lyrically, but that inspiration of like, hey, if you were ever in a band and it didn't work out the first go and you put out a record and you gained a cult following, or even if you didn't, you still could. You
Right.
still could now with the power of playlisting and TikTok, and I'm sure you guys see it where you have new fans that will find a song in your catalog or will, because when I got back into Testament and I got like heavy into Testament again was on Demonic. And followed the Demonic tour, went to like 2, 3, 4 different shows on Demonic, and I just thought, you don't see a lot of bands that get heavier. You see the bands that they dip the toe in, and they will try, like, the radio rock thing, and I think maybe some people could accuse Testament of that on Low, but you know what I mean, to go to come back, because Demonic came after Low, right? How many years?
Yeah. And I wasn't around on those records.
Right.
But
Right.
And that was like a brief period, and I always thought, okay, it's great that they're able to do that.
But 2 scenes happened, like 2 turnovers of scenes.
Yeah, but then
like
when I came back, I felt like we sort of melded them together.
Yes.
Yeah, we sort of melded because the drumming level got much higher. Suddenly, with all respect to our original drummer Louis, suddenly there were drummers like Tempesta, Hoagland, Lombardo, so it just had this high drumming level. But it really, there wasn't that much with what I brought: guitar harmonies, key changes, solos that were like songs within songs.
Yes.
And when I came back, I said, we've got to start doing that. We got to let's keep the crazy drumming. Let's keep some of those elements, but let's bring back some of the musicality.
And then with time, the fans that needed Low and that didn't know they loved Low found it. And same with Demonic, but then just from there, it's been just this upward trajectory of, the Gathering, especially. I thought there's no way, because we were conditioned, kind of like, how do you do that? Like, how can you do that? There wasn't really many bands. Maybe Suicidal tried to do the re-records thing. In the hardcore world, I loved the re-records. I always loved, like, Warzone did some re-records on Victory. I loved those. But in the metal world, like with my metalhead friends, it was like, no, this is a no-no. But then when they heard, I'm sorry, not the Gathering, First Strike Still Deadly, it was like, holy shit, what is going on here? And so I feel like between First Strike Still Deadly and the Gathering, you not only did you gain all these new fans that were finding the Nevermores and the At the Gates and the Napalm Deaths and the Overkills, the kids like my age and younger, but then right into the 2000s, it's just been this rabid growth of the metal scene. Of course, it's like peaks and valleys, like the stock market, but
yeah. Well, also, I think there was more appreciation of it in the 2000s. People were kind of getting over the whole 90s thing of just, tastemakers dismissing like all heavy metal with like the worst of the Sunset Strip music,
Yes.
It was like, okay, you know what? This music, a lot of this music, deserves more respect than that. And, and even some of the 90s icons came out as metalheads. Dave Grohl, probably the biggest example. But even, Mike McCready from Pearl Jam and the Soundgarden guys, and it kind of became clear, no, we never hated heavy metal. It was sort of this, like segments of the music industry sort of forced this trend on everybody that, the heavy metal's out, alternative is in, and I think in the 2000s, it became clear, even with some of the alternative music. Billy Corgan, another example. He's just a metal champion, so that would, I think people got over that silliness. Ozfest happened in the 2000s. By the 2010s, you had Knotfest and Ozfest. So I think the whole culture sort of separate from the most mainstream culture it really grew, which helped a lot. And and you mentioned First Strike Still Deadly. I think that was a really good blueprint. Like, to me, when I came back to the band, that sort of made it showed what was possible. Like, then we took some of these early songs, gave them the production and drumming that was more current, and it worked so well. And I think even though that was a few years before I came back to the band, I was thinking in the back of my mind, if we could put some new music together that captures those qualities, then this band could really have some kind of a resurrection and resurgence. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
For sure, because even those shows that I went to, I was, one of them was going to be at the station, and
Rhode Island.
Yeah, because I think they played there on the Demonic tour, and I ended up going to Pearl Street. I think I went to Coney Island High, Pearl Street, LNG in New London, or maybe it might have been Toads. I'll have to go back and look. I know I saved the flyers, but I just remember thinking all the metal media is wrong, because I had gone to, or not the metal media, but the rock media and the mainstream media. Right. I remember thinking they were completely wrong and completely just liars when it was like, oh, Judas Priest is satanic, and I saw a thing on my local Channel 8 news about, obviously Judas Priest and Ozzy being satanic and being in, but then also something about suicidal tendencies. I remember there was a story about them on the new, like on the regular evening news. But then they played Toads, and I was like, well, where is the gang members? Where is the riots? Like, where is there's no, and I just thought the media is totally full of shit. And just, even though there were great writers, and I was a fan of a small handful of writers in the late 90s, I really, once I saw all these bands breaking through the ceilings, it was like sky's the limit. And people thought I was crazy, because they're like, telling me that whole time, oh no, like, your band, first of all, you have hate in the name, you don't have any melodic singing, you're never gonna outsell, and I don't want to name all the bands, but we outsold them all. And it's not to be cocky, it's just to show that, look at what's happening now. What I mean? Like, look at through those peaks and valleys, now you have mainstream bands with blast beats, mainstream bands. And Testament is a huge part of that, and you kick down doors that a lot of people sort of gently got to walk through. But it's got to be cool to see. Like, I love it. I love it when I see screaming vocals on fucking WrestleMania and in movie trailers, and because I feel like we all played a little small part in showing people that has value, and that it's that it's an art form that can be really beloved. And Chuck, obviously, doing that on Demonic was a big part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just played at an NFL game. I helped kick off the Cleveland Browns Bengals, and I was thinking about that, because they put together a composition for me to solo over, and it was basically like that dramatic sports music, dun, 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 with keyboards, but it worked fine for soloing over. And then into a quick tribute to Ozzy, the Iron Man riff, and then and a variation of AC/DC Hell's Bells as the Cleveland Browns are running out and getting all pumped up, and it was really fun. It was great. And I watched the game, and during the game they had moments where Seek and Destroy came on. And this is a sold out stadium, and everybody's day. It just made perfect sense. And most of the metal that they played was Metallica. Metallica is just the most recognized, but they did have some others, some surprising ones. Ace of Spades came on.
Wow.
And a little bit of Ozzy, of course.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, wow, this is so cool. And at one time, this wouldn't have happened. And it's strange that metal still has this stigma. No metal band has played the Super Bowl. There's always some weirdness with metal at the Grammys, you know, but you know, still it's there, and it certainly permeated the culture and defied expectations.
Yeah, and still could go further, and that's what I love about it.
I think it's unavoidable, but it also just goes to show that, you know, a little humility goes a long way. Like, people don't know what they're talking about. The people who said that you'll never sell as many as so and so, the people who said, you know, metal, you know, is never going to get beyond the clubs.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of heavy distortion. I remember, you know, back when Metallica was new, hearing about, you know, how out they were and how that's far out, and you know, nobody's ever going to be ready for that kind of distortion and that kind of vocal, you know, and look, they're like, they're mentioned in the same sentence as Springsteen and
Rolling Stones, and
they're like one of the biggest bands of all time. And manufacturers had to change how they designed amplifiers, and you know, suddenly people wanted that. So people don't know what they're talking about, especially the media and the trend makers. You know, there's just, and not all of them. So there are some who are humble and don't know what's going to happen, but there are so many people, a lot of people with big platforms, that think they know what's happening, and they talk out the side of their mouth, and they're wrong. So everything you hear, I think you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And you know, when we did those shows with Metallica, those 2 shows with Metallica and Creator and Testament and Hatebreed and Exodus and Faith No More, there's a picture, you know, that I still see pop up on Instagram and stuff of Chuck and James and Zetro and myself. And I look at that and I go, this might still happen in the States. Maybe not a tour, but a destination type of festival, and it's overdue for Testament and for Overkill too. I know they put them on in the parking lot at the show in Jersey. I think they put on Prong as well, which was really cool. And the parking lot at a Metallica show is still probably 2-3 times what most bands would play in front of in a club or a big theater. So
yeah, that's still huge.
Yeah. So, and I know we probably talked about this when Chuck was on, and if Eric comes on, we'll probably talk about when Eric's on. But as we all get older and we see now there's no more Ozzy, there's no more Tampa, you know, Priest is probably going to retire soon. Megadeth saying they're going to retire. It would be really amazing to pen an open letter to Lars and James and say, hey, you know, at this point, you've had Suicidal, you've had Machine Head, you've had Down, you've had, I mean, I could go down the list, Gojira, Godsmack. Testament is due. What do we got to do?
Yeah, we do occasional festivals with them. We were just with them, even on the same stage, which is pretty rare, at the festival in Columbus, Ohio. I forget what it's called. Oh, Sonic Temple.
Yes.
And that was unbelievable. And, you know, it works. It works. I mean, yeah, it's a tough battle because, you know, again, we're not exactly insider underground, but there's just a certain hierarchy that the band never quite got past. But, you know, I know they have a lot of respect for what we do, and you never know.
You know, I saw a funny thing where it was an exchange online where someone had said something about Exodus. Exodus was mentioned on a big mainstream show or something, and someone made like a snide remark about Exodus being, you know, fourth-rate Metallica or something that only like a normie sort of ignorant person would just assume. And then they responded with this link of them playing at Wacken in front of like 80,000 people going nuts, singing Bonded by Blood. And then the person was like, whoa, I stand corrected. Like the person actually like conceded, like, oh, wow, I just didn't know. And I think that is something we're going to see more of now, because we, like you said, there is a hierarchy. but there's less gatekeepers. And, we can put up a podcast that'll do 40, 50,000 on iTunes or Spotify or whatever. We can put up songs that do hundreds of thousands, millions. I mean, a couple songs have 100 million streams, 30, 40, 50 million streams. It's up there with mainstream artists, but we need more of that to prove not only that it's commercially competitive, but also that the awareness is there. So it's like, because when you see, oh wow, Metallica, Pantera, and Suicidal in a stadium, there's no reason why it couldn't be Metallica, Pantera, and Testament.
Right. Yeah, and I think the fact that Pantera is out there with them and just killing it at the arena, actually at the stadium, at the stadium level. Yeah, even though they did some real numbers as far as record sales in the 90s, but still, it's very it's intense music, and it's much closer to the sort of I wouldn't say extreme these days, because now music's gotten so extreme, but it's much closer to a lot of the more underground music, and they're doing it at that level and proving that it works at that level. So you never know. But whenever I run into the Metallica guys, I'm not gonna ask them, "Hey man, take me on tour." I think it's not ridiculous. I'd rather talk to Lars about movies. I'd rather talk to Kirk about vintage Gibson guitars. I'd talk to Robert about Jaco Pastorius, games, whatever he wants to talk about. They're great guys, and they're so supportive. And I don't care. It would be great, but it's also that's an organization now. That is even if they want to handpick some lineup. I mean, they have they have Q Prime.
Well, they've done it before. They put the Sword on. They put on bands that no disrespect to the Sword, but like, to me, I'm sitting there like, that should be Testament. That should be Overkill. But that's just my opinion. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. You don't have to know everything about sports to start playing. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If your pick comes true, it could be your lucky day. Even if your lineup isn't perfect, you can still cash out with Flex Play. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the app today and use code JASTA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code JASTA, Jasta, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Now back to the show. But with your new record and the songs that I've heard, I was again kind of like, holy shit, they're going even more extreme.
The songs you've heard, the rest of the record, there's a lot of variety on the record, so I think people are gonna, the songs that we've put out up front certainly fit that quality, but I think there really is something for everybody. There's I think we have, I hate to use the word power ballad, but okay, let's just call it that. We have one of those songs, which we haven't done in a long time, and it has a string section and acoustic guitars, and I think it's the most, not for the sake of being accessible, but it is the most accessible thing we've done. I think it just came out that way. It came out really great. It's more of, it doesn't sound anything like Pink Floyd, but I think there's some qualities that people like in Pink Floyd that this has, the sort of angst, the sort of darkness, but it just, I love how that song came out. That song's called Meant to Be, and there's another song called Nature of the Beast, which is almost more blues rock. Reminds me a little more of Thin Lizzy.
Nice.
And like my guitar inspiration for some of the solo breaks is like Van Halen on Ice Cream Man.
Nice.
Yeah.
So are you bringing in the same pedals and the same guitars that you used on previous records, or do you start fresh? Do you try new things? Do you try new effects when you're tracking your solos?
I do, but I usually keep it quite simple. For the last few years, I found a setup on the Kemper um, profiling amp modeler that just works great. And I don't. It's funny because live, that's not even what I'm using. I'm using with the Quad Cortex, which a lot of us are using now. Folks from Kiko Loureiro to Scott Ian are all using that. And I think it's great because there's a lot of different sounds. It's easy to find an individual sound with the Quad. But for some reason, recording wise, I don't know. I feel like I tapped into a sound I really like. And I tend to use whatever guitars I'm using live. But then again, there are a few guitars I have that don't leave the house. And sometimes I'll just plug them in just to start the process and get tone. And then I'll realize, wow, this sounds really good. I'm so locked into this sound now. I don't want to use the other guitars.
What is the most rare guitar that you have? Like, what is your prized, your number one in the collection?
My rarest guitars wouldn't work on this record, actually.
Yeah.
Like my rarest one is probably I have a 1935 acoustic Gibson LOO. It's called a parlor guitar.
Holy shit!
Kind of like the one, that famous picture of Robert Johnson. Like if you Google Robert Johnson and you see a picture of him, and it's not the exact same model, but it's sort of that type of guitar. And
have you had it appraised? Where did you get it?
Yeah, I got it at there's a number of great vintage guitar shops in New York, and I live in New York. This one is called Retro Fret. And sometimes you pick up a guitar and it just has mojo.
Yeah,
you just have to have it. In this case, a few things were happening. I did use it on my trio record. I do have a trio record that's coming out a month after the Testament record.
No way.
Yeah, usually it's not everything all at once, but it just sort of worked out that way. Both release dates got pushed and moved around, and they ended up almost in the same place.
So you're going to be signing a lot of records. You're going to be signing a lot of jackets.
Yeah. But
that's a fusion record, jazz, mainly jazz, or is it?
I guess, I guess you could call it jazz rock.
Prog.
A little bit of prog. The style is mostly, I guess you could call it jazz guitar because it's clean guitar, it's chord melodies, but there's some moments that qualify as sort of fusion or jazz rock. And we did the Cruise to the Edge earlier this year alongside prog royalty. Got people like Rick Wakeman and Robert Fripp and Steve Howe and some newer groups and it went over great. And
who'd you vibe with? Who'd you vibe with the most? Like those guys, I always feel like they're on a different frequency. Like occasionally I can break out of the caveman frequency, but those guys, they're channeled into something. Like who did you vibe with the most?
You mean musically?
Yeah, or just personally, like anybody that you met for the first time that had a great energy.
Okay, well, musically, I would say Steve Hackett, and a lot of the early Genesis music was kind of over my head. And it's funny because I did some research on one of their records because Steve Hackett did the whole record, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which is a legendary record. Played the whole thing live on this cruise.
Wow.
And it got me interested in it. And I always kind of appreciated it, but it just felt kind of over my head. Hearing it live and played with like modern players, it was insane. It was so great. And I got into my first AI conversation with this program called Claude, and I was asking Claude about this record, like, tell me about this record. And no wonder it went over my head. Like AI describes it as a graduate thesis in like multiple subjects, from Jungian psychology to philosophy to because Peter Gabriel's a genius, and this was the last Genesis record that he sang on. And anyway, I had renewed appreciation for like Genesis before the hit Genesis, which was how I discovered them. When I was growing up, they were already like a pop machine.
Right.
And Steve Hackett, he's just sounding better than ever. He's just a great example of aging gracefully. You can be in your 70s and still be doing great work.
Yeah. That's why I feel like they've tapped into something that's, you bring up the Jungian angle too, where they've manifested, they made real tangible products that were sort of appealing to all different walks of life and all different sort of spectrums of intelligence, myself included. So it's that to me is amazing to be able to speak to that many people and speak to them not only musically but lyrically, and also even through time, like we were talking about earlier, the peaks and the valleys, because that's a band that they don't need radio. They don't need, like, they're always going to find their tribe or those people that just worship each person in the band and their contribution to the records and how they recorded it and like you said, this guy did it. What was it, live on Broadway? And then he's recreating it. You said
we did it on this cruise. This cruise happens every year. It's called Cruise to the Edge. It's actually the same organization that puts on the Monsters of Rock cruise. So you have a lot of the same people that work that cruise, except it's Eddie Trunk and LA Guns and Extreme and whoever else is on that ship.
Right.
A lot of that same crew, and back like the next week they'll do this Prague cruise, and it's a totally different crowd. It's a largely international crowd. A lot of sort of English folks getting on but it's so fun and it's such a different scene. And anyway, so musically, I loved hearing Steve Hackett. Personally, out of like those types of guys, the ones I get along with the best, Adrian Belew, who was King Crimson's guitarist. He also played for Zappa, Bowie. He's just the coolest guy. He's currently touring with Beat, which is doing 80s King Crimson music, except the people he's with, most metal fans will know the names. Danny Carey of Tool and Steve Vai of, insert band name here and soloer. And the original King Crimson bassist, Tony Levin, who's a legend. So, it's interesting. There are these, connections with prog and metal, even though there's probably a small group of folks that are aware of an album like Lamb Lies Down on Broadway in the metal world. But, there are some, and that was a huge influence on Rush, that record. It was another thing that got me interested in it because I'm reading Geddy Lee's book, and he's just going on and on about the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and how it inspired Rush doing conceptual records. Talk to John Petrucci or Mike Portnoy or anybody in Dream Theater about that record. So anyway, hearing it live,
I meant to read the book over COVID because I think Steve's book came out.
Hackett? I didn't even know he had a book.
Yeah. And I guess it's like not salacious in any way. I guess it's very it's really cool.
Wild rock, which is probably why he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so funny because there's other musicians that have come, that came much later that on the internet, everybody's saying, retire. Please retire. I'm not going to name names. You can use your imagination.
Right.
Vince Neil. Yeah.
I know nobody, and you never hear anybody say poor Vince.
But you know,
but going back to Adrian Belew, I'm glad you mentioned him because I have one of his records here, and I always go back and revisit records. Like I never say I'm not a fan. I say I'm not a fan yet.
Right.
Like I really try to go back and get into stuff, and I'm still not like I'm not into Nick Cave. I'm not into Joy Division. I've tried every few years.
Yeah, same here.
Recently, I went back, tried to listen to Elliott Smith. I couldn't do it, but I know they're revered, and I know and I want to have something in common because there's people that I really like as people that love those artists, and I'm like, well, I really like them as people. I want to know what they're feeling when they listen to these artists. Yes. But Adrian Belew's one of his records is here somewhere. I got sent a promo of something, and I thought I know this name.
Yeah. Legend. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see the work, you see the list of, and you go, wow, this is talent right here. And that's, I always thought hustle beats talent, but I've really sort of walked that back now. And I'm going, talent kind of really stands on its own. The hustle's great too, but it's really nice to see when you have both.
Yeah. And he's just a chill, hilarious dude that can hang out, and I've had several great bar hangs with him, and he's such an inspiration. But
today's episode is brought to you by Blue Grape Music. Yeah, baby, we just had Gridiron on the Summer Slaughter tour. They're absolutely killing it. Go get their new record. Plus, you'll check out releases from Fugitive, Silly Goose, Spiritual Cramp, White Reaper, and many more. Check out bluegrapemusic.com. The Jasta Show is brought to you by Sumerian Records. Check out the new Face Yourself Fury EP featuring the song Fractures, which features guests Crystal Lake. The track appears on the group's new EP, Fury, available September 26th through Sumerian. They got a new music video directed by Eric DiCarlo, which you can check out on the Sumerian Records YouTube page. Go ahead and pre-order and pre-save Fury when you go to SumerianRecords.com after the show, and make sure you get yourself a copy. You'll see they have limited vinyl, merch, and a whole bunch of other goodies. Big thank you to Sumerian Records. Now back to the show.
Anyway,
yeah, and King Crimson was one of those where I bought it, dollar bin, $3, whatever, because of the cover. Right. And I just, and that's another one. I'm not a fan yet. I got to go back and try again. You know how sometimes you're just in a space for, like, who's an artist like that you got into later on besides this Genesis?
Yeah, well, that's a really good example, and hearing it live like hearing Steve Hackett do the whole album live with this young vocalist whose name unfortunately escapes me, but who sounds just like Peter Gabriel. Okay, that it really hit me, and then that got me super into it. That's really the main one that comes to mind. And all this happened on that Cruise to the Edge, and my trio played on Cruise to the Edge. And I was saying earlier that that crowd, the Prague crowd, seems to they've been very embracing. They really get it. And they're back to that album. Yeah, there is some prog on it. I sneak prog into the trio. I sneak prog into Testament occasionally too. There was a song called A Day in the Death from several albums back that has odd time signatures and some prog staples. But it's tough. It's hard to sell the guys on that. And I understand this is we're not a Dream Theater type band, but outside of the band, I exist in this very musical world. So occasionally I try to sneak that in there.
Have you had like transcendent experiences with any music? Like I like binaural beats, and I do appreciate. I've looked into some of the sort of Jungian psychology and how it's, I think they call it musicking or something. There's some term that was used where they're applying different frequencies and talking about inner worlds versus outer worlds. And I know that we've changed tunings and changed frequencies throughout time with music, but have you ever had any sort of transcendent experience with, like, is there any sort of tuning or instruments or sounds that outside of metal that you feel can be like life-changing or to that effect?
Well, so it happens to me with some classical. I definitely gravitate more towards chamber music, which is, small ensemble classical music, as opposed to, a giant orchestra with, 50 to 100 people. I mean, even though I like a lot of that music too, and that could be transcendent. But yeah, I find that, like sort of intimate chamber music, especially string quartets, and piano, or the piano quintet, which is a string quartet with the addition of piano. Probably more composers that are later, not quite current, not like 20th century even, but just before that. One of my favorite composers is the French pianist Eric Satie, and yeah, I've found that music sometimes has that effect. It just takes you out of whatever zone you're in, and you sort of enter this dream world while you're still conscious. But it has this meditative effect. It can change your emotions. Some ambient music does that for me when it's really well done. Brian Eno, I think, is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And I love that he's constantly putting out new music. I mean, every year or so, there's some new ambient music, or it's music for an art installation, or some collaboration. Sometimes with people you've heard of. He's collaborated with Robert Fripp, his brother Roger Eno, even David Byrne, although that's more pop. That's not really meditative music. But I always check, what's Brian Eno up to? And wow, there's a new record. And then I'll listen to it. And it definitely has that effect you're talking about. And it's definitely not metal.
That's so cool. I have to really look into that. I'm gonna make a note of that, because I love seeing things like the Johns Hopkins medicine studies and the other examples of I think it was there was this thing I was reading. I want to say it was about neuroscience and the effects on like reducing stress, and actually there's research where it shows it decreases cortisol but increases dopamine, and we've heard all these stories throughout the years of like, your music changed my life, or your music helped me lose weight or helped me get motivated, and I like I feel like my voice fits good in C, but I like doing stuff in D, and I love the standard tunings. Like I love when the bands like Testament and Municipal Waste and the thrash bands I think are great at being super heavy in the what would be considered higher tunings now. But
yeah. Now we've, truth be told, we've dropped a half step since pretty much all the reunion stuff.
So it's drop D.
Some songs are drop D. Most of it is just E flat standard or 430.
Right.
When I rejoined the band, they had a bunch of songs that were completely dropped. Like the whole guitar dropped down to C sharp. And I tried it and I just didn't feel comfortable. It all just felt sludgy to me. Some of the riffs were fine, but it felt like, okay, now the solos are getting buried. And when I bend a string, I don't want it to feel like a loose rubber band. So for those songs, I figured out a way to tune the guitar back up, tune it to E flat, keep the low string dropped, at C sharp, and there are some songs where Eric and Steve will switch instruments, and they're totally dropped. And me, I've just got this low string dropped, and it's funny, and the look at my hands, and it's like crazy, like
yeah,
I'm playing it wrong, but it sounds perfect,
right?
And then when I play the higher notes, it feels right. It feels like a guitar. So we sort of figured out that compromise. So when we do a song that is dropped, and there's a few on every record. I think just one on this record, maybe one or two. I'm going to play it like that. I'm going to just drop the low string, and they can either drop the whole guitars or they can do it like I do it. Eric actually ended up tuning like me for a couple of songs because he realized, oh, this is so much easier. And then if something goes wrong, the tech can't hand you the guitar in time or what, you just quickly drop one string. So,
yeah, I was listening to, I forget which frequency it was, but it was almost like it was chimes or flutes or something. And I was doing this meditation. It was like 20 minutes had gone by, but I literally thought I had just started it.
Yeah, I've had that happen before.
And I woke up, I felt so good. Like because I had some serious brain fog beforehand. And I think maybe I had like too much caffeine the day before or just not a good night's sleep. And I started going down this whole different frequency rabbit hole of, and I thought, yeah, what frequency are we in? Like, are we in a different frequency when we're in different tunings?
Right.
And then I got down this rabbit hole. I got to all the way back to like Greek times with Pythagoras and different Vedic and Chinese healers and what they would use for, just the whole concept is fascinating. And I think it does sort of cross over into metal because we've all heard and seen the first account. We've heard the stories.
Sure.
Of people that said this helped me in my life. It helped me get past, an abusive relationship or help me, get over PTSD or whatever. But I do wonder, do we need to try to do more of that? Like try to get more into a higher frequency to continue on, especially if we're saying it every night and we're performing it every night, right? We're channeling something.
Yeah, and I love hearing that kind of feedback about music. Your music helped me, or your music makes me feel a certain way. It's hard to be objective about it with your own music, because I hear the music and I hear things like, okay, maybe we should have panned the bass more center, or is there too much reverb on the snare?
Right.
I'm so in musician headspace.
Yeah, I there's this one that I love. I'm trying to find it right now. There's this it was a binaural beats channel that I subscribed to on YouTube. And they
keep an eye out for them.
I don't know if YouTube has the same sort of quality as say Apple Music, but on Apple Music, if you're a subscriber, there isn't, at least there wasn't, the last I checked, there wasn't a lot of sort of streaming meditations that were free. There were some you could buy on iTunes, or there were some, but I think that is something that more bands and more artists should break into and do, especially if it helps them. There's certain voices and certain players that I would love to hear add something to, to those frequencies or whatever, those binaural beats. But have you ever thought about that? And do you add any sort of ethereal layers on the trio stuff?
Definitely more on the trio stuff. On the last disc before the upcoming one, by the way, is called Prove You're Not a Robot. And the one that came out just before the pandemic is called Conundrum. And there's a song on there called Key of C. SEA. And I actually dropped guitar string way down. I think I dropped it to C also. So it has this, multiple meaning. And it's definitely designed to be a meditative piece.
Okay.
It's like
I got to check it out because it's called Study Sonic Focus.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we can keep this channel free for you guys. This video is sponsored by Research Flow.
Let me turn this down. It's the frequency that this one was in is 40 hertz, gamma binaural beats, brainwave music for super concentration and focus. And then there was another one. There's another one that you can go to sleep to. I don't want anybody doing this like while they're driving or whatever, and being put into some sort of trance. But I wondered if it needs to be through a certain system or a certain style of headphones, or if a frequency is just the frequency, no matter what DSP you're using or what interface.
Mm-hmm. What? This sounds very similar to a playlist I subscribe to, which is called Flow State, and it's designed for focus. So yeah, maybe you should do a search for that and subscribe to it, as it's great because they send you recommendations for songs. Most of the songs don't have vocals, and it's just it's really good for concentration, and it fits the description you're talking about. But also there's links, so you can listen to it on Apple Music or Spotify or any platform.
So do you think like a guy like Hackett, do you think he's just tapped into that and he's figured out how to just be in a flow state? Because if you're writing these records, you're going on these cruises, you're writing books. I mean, sometimes I go, how the fuck did he like I look at like the Chris Jericho's, I'm like, how is he doing it? How's he wrestling in a match, then doing a show, then doing 50 episodes of podcast, then writing a book, then going and being in a movie set? I'm like, because some days I'm like, I can barely get out of bed.
Oh yeah. Totally. And there's also constant distractions, right? There's just like the worst thing you can do, I think, is just to get caught up in a thread. On Instagram. That's like not even an important conversation. It's just arguing with somebody online, which I think we're all guilty of doing that. And then just checking it and just getting lost in something that really doesn't matter. So
no, I know. I left a comment on And Justice for All. I on Metallica's Instagram, and so many people were replying to me, and I'm like, I just can't. Where I'm not going to have this whole conversation, but I just said like hardest album without bass ever. So I just wrote something silly,
and something like that.
And then you just, oh my god, it's like you start this whole thing, and it's like it's just
suddenly you can be at it all day responding to that. And, I'm constantly catching myself like, okay, am I doing it? Is this you? Especially when I have this device, is this useful right now? What I'm doing? Sure. If I'm announcing an album or a tour or paying tribute to somebody we just lost or whatever it is, okay, that's useful. But if it's something like that, not that that's a great comment. That's certainly useful to post the comment, but to just get in the weeds with these people that are just going to be chiming in.
Because when you think about it, it's so wild. Like if you were to say to me right now, something happened with Steve, so we're just we're just in his honor, we're just not gonna have any bass on the album. I'd be like, well, you gotta have bass on the album. I mean, maybe I wouldn't say it publicly, but I'd be like, hey man, you gotta at least like have a little bass, like you gotta turn it up. And you're like, no, we're just, and then to get that level, to be one of the biggest records ever, and the video and the whole thing, it's just like
absolutely.
It's crazy.
Was he wrong? Actually, it's like
no.
I mean, you can't argue with success, and I would say he more than made up for it on the next record. And the next record is just bass central.
Yes, and even bigger. An even bigger record.
Exactly.
What are some players, like I liked what you were saying, like about the purpose and the meaning and just having like I look at the same thing with the podcast. It's the same thing as with records or with anything I do. I don't want it to go into a vacuum. I want it to be, I want it to have some sort of effect on the real world. And we've seen it with the podcast for sure. Like we've done albums, we've done projects, ideas that we pitched on the podcast became real tangible things that I have on my shelf here. Joey C fucking joined Arch Enemy. He's their new guitar player. Like
cool.
You know, he had been delivering dumplings at one point and came to the studio, you know, like, so is there any?
Today's episode is brought to you by martyrstore.net. That's right, we got new music headed your way from Many Eyes and Kirk Winstein. Many Eyes has a new EP that's coming out on 12-inch vinyl as well as CD Digipack and on digital. It's called Combust. You're hearing the clock behind all other clocks. That shit is hard. Keith and the boys are coming back hard. It's dropping on September 19th. And then later in the month, or in early, or should I say early October on digital, but some of you have already gotten your pre-orders, and that's cool too. Kirk Winstein, Ethereal Waves, the second solo album from Crowbar, Riff Beast and Main Man, the lovable, the huggable, the one and only Kirk Winstein with one of the best records of his career. Really, really proud of Keith and Kirk, and can't thank everybody enough who's been involved in these projects on my label. It's been incredible to work with truly talented, unique, and awesome songwriters. So support that. If you love heavy music, head on over to martyrstore.net and use the code JASTA10 and you will save 10% off your pre-orders for Many Eyes Combust and Kirk Winstein's Ethereal Waves albums. Now back to the show.
New players that you have seen that have impressed you, and what about their playing did you like, or what about their playing that you admired?
There's so many. You know, I got introduced to David Davidson.
Oh, Revocation, yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I love it because, you know, here's a guy, he actually went to Berklee College of Music, studied jazz guitar, like real jazz guitar, the stuff I like, you know, Grant Green, Wes Montgomery, like, and he's deep into that stuff, yet fronts his own extreme metal band and just does that brilliantly. And we've actually played some kind of low-key jazz guitar duo gigs together.
Nice.
Most of the people that came either didn't know who we were or were friends of ours. You know, we have a lot of mutual like music industry friends that, you know about both of us that come, and it's a lot of fun, and so it's great not to be alone anymore. To be I felt like this. I was so isolated for a long time in a way, just being this
your jazz island,
full-on jazz guitar side, where I work with artists that are completely removed from metal. They're just virtuoso players that are fantastic, but this is not what they do. You know, they're upright bassists, they're piano players, saxophonists. The guys in my trio. Now, the guys in my trio are a little different. They've certainly gotten much more awareness of metal being in the band with me, and they come to the shows and have a great time. But yeah, for the longest time, it was hard to imagine, somebody else that I could actually sit with a couple like vintage Gibson archtop guitars and play, what feels like professional level jazz guitar playing. And we're both also in heavy metal bands. So that's been really cool. Brandon Ellis, I just think it's amazing what he's done. Because I remember sort of wrestling I wanted to do guitar that sort of kept up as much as I could with more like glam metal. I thought a lot of the glam metal had freaking great guitar. I still love George Lynch and some Warren DeMartini, so many of those players of that era. And it's like, okay, I want to be able to take that. Yngwie, who's, even though he's not glam, but just like that quality, and hardly anybody was doing that. Marty Friedman joining Megadeth was great. Then I felt not quite alone. But anyway, like it was a struggle because some of the music didn't really lend itself to that type of playing. So it was like learning how to sort of make it work, make it musical, and even on the parts with really busy bass drum patterns and chugging guitar riffs, just finding parts that work. So Brandon, what he's done with Black Dahlia Murder, I know he's not in the band anymore, but he had a really good run with them.
Yeah,
that's extreme music. That's like that's more intense than the stuff we did. And he just makes it work. He makes it, he does, this just screaming guitar that it just cuts through really well, works great for the music. And so that's guys like that are sort of keeping it alive and taking it to new places, which is really exciting to see.
When you mentioned Dave and you guys kind of being on your own, like jazz, I call it Jazz Island now. From now on, I'm gonna, I would think that there were more players that were super into it, because wasn't jazz like kind of before metal? Wasn't it looked at? A lot of it was looked at as like darker, almost mysterious, almost otherworldly, right? Like abstract textures and almost like supernatural. Isn't the whole thing with Crossroads like, that's more blues, right? Not jazz. That's more blues, not jazz. But wasn't jazz accused of also kind of being I don't want to say otherworldly, but like kind of sinister in a way? Like there's compositions that are dark, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, the late great Wayne Shorter, one of the greatest tenor saxophonists and composers in jazz music. Yeah, he had a lot of stuff like that. He had a song called "Witch Hunt." Long before Rush had a song called "Witch Hunt." He has an album, one of his essential albums, called "Speak No Evil," and it's interesting. Yeah, you can find that with jazz, and then at one time, jazz was considered, the devil's music, and it had a lot of the stigma that rock and roll and later heavy metal had.
And is that because of the dissonant aspects to the piano lines or the phrasing in some of the I guess the horns, like, or the trumpet lines, things like that? Because I don't know what jazz is usually tuned to, but I remember I've heard that. I guess I'm trying to think of some artists like Miles Davis or Sun Ra.
Oh, sure. Sure.
I think they were accused. Maybe Thelonious Monk too.
Thelonious Monk, yeah. Well, yeah, because he used a lot of dissonance.
Right. So I wonder, you would think that would inspire. I bet it inspires more metal, or it inspired more metal than we know.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the OG metal guys like Bill Ward and Geezer Butler talk about that. I don't know how much they listen to Monk, but they listen to a lot of sort of the big band jazz.
Here we go.
If was a big inspiration for Bill Ward, also for Neil Peart.
Here we go. I just looked up Thelonious Monk. It says Crepuscule with Nelly is the name of a song. Suggests a twilight, shadowy quality, and the piece is sparse, haunting melodies and unsettling harmonies, creating an atmosphere of unease and mystery.
Wow.
That's what I mean about like certain tunings or certain harmonies or certain styles of music creating real tangible feelings and real life effects, right? Like almost to a point of people fearing music and the effects it can have to inspire people to do good or bad, right?
Yes, exactly. And also, you think of the term diabolus in musica, which applies to the interval of the tritone, which was the first, the Black Sabbath opening track, their title track, and also the title of a Slayer album.
Yes. My least favorite Slayer album. Sorry, guys.
Yes, it is a great title. But that, applied to dissonance. And somebody like, Monk just took dissonance to a whole new level. And I could see why, they certainly, that would freak out some people who thought that was associated with darkness and witchcraft and whatever.
Yeah. The first time I heard Voivod, I was like, this has to be some like jazz influence type shit. Cause that's another one I keep going back to. Like Frank, our guitar player, shout out to Frank. He's like, he loves those Dimension Hatros, and he'll be playing them in the front lounge on tour late at night. And I'll come in and I'll be like, oh, there's some cool parts, but it's nothing that I ever like. I remember their Pink Floyd cover. That was the one I remember seeing on Headbangers Ball. I think there was a video, right? Did they do maybe I'm thinking of a different band.
Which song?
I don't know how you pronounce it, but it was like Sign Domini or Sina Domini. How do you pronounce it? Maybe Michael can look it up. Voivod Pink Floyd cover. That I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know they did that. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they had a video for it, but my memory has been going. I need to listen to more. Astronomy Domini. Is that how you say it? Pink Floyd cover.
Yeah, I guess I knew they did that. I sort of forgot about that. Yeah.
Wow, they play it live with Phil Anselmo, 2013 on YouTube. 40,000 views live at Hellfest.
Okay, wow.
And they had, speaking of bass, they had Newstead.
That's right. That was that very brief period.
I got to go back. There was one record that Gitter sent me, I think, when they were on social media, and I started listening to that, and I was like, wow, this is different. This is cool. There's another one. I say I'm not into them yet. I'm going to be.
Sure.
So everybody send me your Voivod recommendations. Alex, so good to catch up with you. And I'm really excited about Parabellum. Yes. Do you get a say with what comes with the pre-order? Like, do you ever pitch, hey, can we get a Skolnick pick set, or do you fancy yourself on a phone case, or like what's an item that you want to see with the pre-order, and what's the last record you pre-ordered? I just pre-ordered one, and I got to do more because we listened to a bunch on the Patreon, and then I'm like, I got to pre-order and I forget, but I just pre-ordered, I think it was Sanguisugabog. The new Sanguisugabog I pre-ordered.
Oh, okay.
But what are the bundles like, and what do I got to get? Like, what do I need? Do I need a Testament really puzzle?
I don't deal with that as much. That's one of those things, I'm so busy with like my instrumental side of things, and I sometimes weigh in if I get shown a choice of, okay, do you like this t-shirt better, or this t-shirt better, or this art better?
But have we exhausted all the merch options? Like,
what do you mean?
Because sometimes I'll get pitched an idea and I go, I don't know, do we really need that? And then I'm like, yeah, actually, if I think of a certain band, I want it. But I know that, the people that I live with are like, please, no more mugs, no more hoodies, no more t-shirts, no more hats.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, just the stuff adds up. So yeah, I don't really think about that. I think like colored vinyl is very cool, and that's
so the Skolnick Trio record, it's just going to be a couple different colors vinyl, a CD digipack, a CD, and a shirt. Like, no,
you know what? I would love to do that stuff it's just too complicated with Skolnick Trio. It's all about music, but
I know, because you give me the disc and it's just like a paper sleeve. There's no insert, no nothing. I was like, is this the promo?
This new one's got, that was the last one. This new one has got a lot of stuff. In fact, I did a session. We did a full photo session with a mutual friend of ours named Randy, who
shout out to Randy. It's right here.
Pod. Yes, there he is. Yeah. So he did the photo shoot. He also got me into photography. So I've been carrying around a Leica, not as maniacally as him, but he definitely got me into it. So the cover shot is a picture I took. So it's my photography, but it's largely, it's inspired by him getting me into photography. And then the band photography is done by Randy.
Nice.
And we have multiple pictures in this one folds out, and also
jewel case.
Not a jewel case, but
okay, digipack.
Digipack, yeah. And there's going to be vinyl as well. The vinyl is slightly different, and it has some pictures that the disc doesn't have, but each one has components that the other doesn't have, so you're going to want to get both.
Nice. And do we still have to pay this fucking guy every time we do a digipack? Can Michael look that up? Who's the guy? Remember, you used to have to pay a fee. It was like their guy owned a patent on the digipack.
Oh,
Michael,
that was so brilliant. Whoever that was, I'd like to get.
You used to have to pay a fee. Like I remember, I want to say when we did the 2 Kingdom of Sorrow albums, it might have still been, or maybe the first Kingdom of Sorrow, because we did a digipack, which, by the way, now I want to re-release them with a jewel case, because my CD case over here, I don't like the way I think I'm getting late stage onset autism when it comes to my collection, where I don't like the way the CDs sit. Like, I want the jewel case version.
Or you have late stage OCD.
Yes, or something.
I didn't know that was a thing.
A touch of the tism where I'm like, this, I don't like the way do the digipacks, do they need their own section over here? Like, do they but I don't know. Michael might be recording another show, but if there was a guy, I think that
it says it expired in 2002.
What, that long ago?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I'm getting old. I could have swore it was a recent conversation. So yeah, I wonder what. Maybe that's why we didn't do digipacks until later on, because we still. So wait, so we can release stuff on digipack and not have to pay the patent now.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Who was that guy? Because we need to hit him up and borrow money from him. He's retired. He's living on an island somewhere. What about the guy that made the Chinese food box? Do you know about that guy?
I mean, I'd love to invent something like that. That would just be totally amazing.
Because then, what's the royalty on that?
No kidding. No, that would be amazing. I'm going to have another interview coming up.
Yes.
I just want to get a heads up. So
and we don't want to keep you much longer, but we appreciate the time, Alex, and we can't wait to see we can't wait to hear the Parabellum songs live and have fun with Schmear and
thank you.
And the Tardy Brothers.
Yeah, I can't wait. And Nervosa, we're bringing the young ladies to Nervosa.
The divine feminine energy that is so needed when it's a pickle party tour.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We appreciate you, and we'll check out both records. So the October 10th for Parabellum, and then November what for the Alex Skolnick Trio?
November 12th.
November 12th. All right, just in time for Black Friday.
Oh yeah, and real quick, speaking of feminine energy, I don't know if you noticed my shirt, but this is an artist, Delilah Bond, and I know we both like rap and hip hop, and she's a 20-something from the UK.
Okay,
and her music, it kind of reminds me, like, take the energy of Beastie Boys, Rage Against the Machine, and just add a touch of sort of 90s metal to it.
No way.
But make it total feminine, like empowerment, female empowerment.
Really?
Angry as fuck. Yes. If I can say that. Yeah. And
okay.
I think you dig her. Yeah, she's kind of. I think she's starting to blow up a little bit too. And she just did a tour. I saw her, and her bass player is from the metal world, Becky Baldwin, who plays for.
Oh yeah, I've had Becky on the show.
I'm sure you've had Becky on the show. Yeah, so she's obviously
Merciful Fate
and her own band Fury, and she just did a tour with her, and the show was great. And I think you'd dig the music because it's got that.
She's got bars.
Yeah, she spits bars, but she can also sing, and it's great, and it's like perfect for right now, especially with it's a good voice with all the toxic bro crap in the culture. It's like an answer to that. So
okay. All right, we will check it out. See, there you go. We're getting some recommendations at the end here.
I thought we would talk more rap. We didn't get into.
I know. Well, next time we got to have you come back on. I know we got to get into the rap because I'm
way behind. I haven't done a rap in a few years, and when I did, obviously, the world.
Do you see the shirts in the wild?
What's that?
Do you ever see your shirts in the wild? The occasional.
Once in a while, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple folks that are like big fans of those shirts.
That's awesome.
I have a couple friends whose kids live in those shirts.
Well, thank you again for the time, and good luck with the rest of the interviews. And we will all be pre-ordering Parabellum October 10th on Nuclear Blast. Nuclear. Make sure you say it right, folks. Nuclear, not nuclear.
Nuclear.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everybody from Patreon.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Just a quick outro, and thanks again for checking out this episode. Shoot us an email at jastashow@gmail.com and check out the big Depop sale all weekend long. It will bundle at checkout. No need to write 100 messages. Thank you for all the nice messages, but no need to write 100 messages. Just bundle, grab the app, download the app, bundle what you want. You're going to save 10% off when you add one or more items to the cart. You'll see that at the checkout. Big thanks to our sponsors, Sumerian Records. Make sure you go pre-order that new Face Yourself EP entitled Fury. Also, thank you to Reigning Phoenix Music. Go check out Insight. Big shout out to the boys in Insight who did Summer Slaughter Tour with us. Their record's called Savage New Times. Also, thank you to Blue Grape Music. They got a bunch of new killer music coming out on their label, bluegrapemusic.com. Of course, martyrstore.net. Go see Keith and the boys on tour at the end of the month. Many Eyes, new EP, Combust, is going to be available on limited edition vinyl and CD Digipack. Also, Kirk Winstein, Ethereal Waves. The album is amazing. Kirk will sign your copy personally, and we will put it in the mail right away. And last but certainly not least, come see me, yours truly, Jasta, on tour with Life of Agony. I pick up in Jersey at the Starland Ballroom. Dates are probably on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes if you would. And, of course, get out there, slay the day, keep it PMA, drink your coffee, do your push-ups, listen to death metal.